Hello and welcome to In ShawScope, the show where myself, Nicholas O'Shenanigans, and themselves.
Where's Clive in it?
Darren, it is.
Talk about the
Munscope.
The filmography. Talk about the films produced by Shaw Brothers in Hong Kong.
Fucking bang, innit? Fucking love Shaw, isn't it?
Well.
That's I think that's why we're doing the show. So today we're talking about two things.
I knew a bloke. He was telling me that runner in Shaw used to shit in a bucket on stage.
Yeah. Did they slow it down as well though?
To slow the film down so you could get to come out.
Yeah. Big. He had the fastest plops in the East.
He did.
Yeah.
All right then. So with that said, we're talking about.
No one actually knows what we're on about there, but
I have no idea what you're talking about. We're talking about Bride Napping, 1962, directed by Yan Jun. We're also talking about LABU Dan LABI, yet another film by P. Ramlee, the great Renaissance man of Malaysia. So yeah,
P as well. We've decided after a few films now, the P stands for Ramlee, right? Because he was a man, especially on the other end of a saxophone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Penis bandit Ramlee.
Yeah. He certainly had his fair share of the cuties as well. His wives were all very attractive ladies. So who wants to introduce Bride Napping here?
Well, I haven't seen it for a while because we were supposed to do this at another time. So it's not fresh.
Well, I think it's got to be Darren then. I think
the one who's seen it most recently.
It's actually my fault that it's been so long. So I think it's fair that I do the quite convoluted description of Bride Napping.
Atonement.
It is, yes. It's my well, we'll get onto that in the not in short.
Yeah. We'll break a bunch of dishes and have you crawl across them on your knees a bit later on.
Yeah. Or I'll be strung up on some sort of spider web dream catcher and have a net stretched across me. Yeah. More to tune in for Not in ShawScope.
Yes. Where
all will be explained.
Except that bollocks we were on about at the beginning, which will never be explained.
Yeah, no one's ever going to get that. No. Right, anyway, so Bride Napping. Interestingly, King Hu's script writing debut by King Hu, starring Betty Lottie, Dingling, like a bit of Dingling.
Yeah.
Q Chung, Chu Mu, Chen Yu Su, Chen Feng's in there, Feng Nagai's in there, Fuk Young Chen's in there.
Diana Chang.
I had to put her in a separate box because I forgot to write the name down. Yes, the rarely seen Diana Chang.
Right.
Who absolutely steals this film, in my opinion. Anyway, so what goes on in Bride Napping?
Why don't you tell us, Darren? I forgot.
Well, gather round, children. Uncle Darren's going to tell you what goes on in Bride Napping. So it's kind of a bit of a musical-ish farce, comedy farce. Betty Lottie plays the kind of retainer, sort of chief maid to Dingling, who's of a noble household, who runs into this dashing artist in the market one day, and they both fall in love. And then they kind of arrange to have a meeting with the dad so they can kind of have a sort of pre-arranged marriage. But then Chu Mu, who's a local kind of wayward warlord son, kind of gangster kind of
douchebag
character. Yeah. He sort of comes into the picture. Quite
different from the last time we saw him, right? He was a cuckold.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to get on to Chu when we have a chance in a minute. I'm going to get on to Chu because I fucking love Chu Mu in this as well.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah. So anyway, so Chu Mu comes into the picture, and then Chu Mu takes a fancy to Dingling, and it gets incredibly fucking convoluted from there. So
mostly because of the stupid retainer they have at the house, right?
Yes,
the old doddering old fool who
He's a
constantly screws things up for the family.
Before we do go any further into plot, were either of you two, did you both have the same thought in the early parts when Dingling and Betty Loti are walking about and they bump into the handsome scholar? Were you thinking,
yes,
I hope they're not fucking snakes again?
Yeah, that was exactly my thought too.
Yeah. Also a bit of Chinese ghost story Enchanting Shadow in there as well.
Yeah.
Well, Betty Loti was in there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
but the whole kind of scholar,
the young scholar painting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, another young suicide story as well, right? 68.
Yeah. It's crazy how many of this. There's at least 3 of them that I've now stumbled across, which since we've started this, that top themselves very, very young. Shaw seems like it was a rough place, or I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just they're all ladies that struggled with mental health, but I don't know.
Well, I think, I mean, not that any of us are qualified to comment, but on that topic,
stopped us in the past, Darren.
Never will in future either. This is the overreaching podcast.
Yes.
Not overreaching, talking about shit we haven't got a fucking clue about. But yeah, I mean, I suppose one of the sort of features of Hong Kong cinema stardom culture is if you're a starlet, if you're a talented actress, then your job is essentially to spend your 20s on the screen and then marry a film producer or a businessman and just be a prisoner in your own home for the rest of your life, looking after kids or just being a
farm candy, basically.
Yeah. So, I can see how that's kind of an oppressive atmosphere, with not a lot of alternatives around, even at that level of sort of stardom and fame and probably wealth, so overreaching number 1.
Yep.
Yes, I'm stepping away from this bit of overreach. Just
yeah. Darren's already gone too far. But anyway, so the arranged marriage, mistaken identity between Chu Mu and
young scholar
Q Chong. Chu Mu's massive, kind of bumbling, but also a massive bully who's kind of massive threat of violence throughout the film as well. Which leads to some gender bending by Diana Chang, who's Chu Mu's sister. She pretends to be the suitor, the fiance,
the young scholar guy. Although he is already, so I mean, because the gender bending begins with him.
Because he gets up,
shows up at the house, and everyone's in a panic about the fact that this local thug has come and demanded that they get married, and then she convinces him, well, can you dress up as me and then be kidnapped? So it begins with the young scholar cross-dressing as his girlfriend, basically being spirited away to the house, and then the sister of our thug discovers that whole scene is great, actually. The whole scene in the bedroom where she slowly figures out, oh, wait a second, you're a man in drag. And then she switches places with him and goes back to the house. It's all very convoluted, but fun.
It would be fun at about 80 minutes, but this fucking thing runs 100.
It is a little long.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by the last act, just where the leads entirely disappear from the film. It's like where they only contracted to do an hour and a half, and then they were like, "Ooh, we planned for this thing to be 2 hours. We need," and then so they just bring in somebody else for the last.
Yeah, but we do get Fung the guy with a big fuck off monk spear kicking the shit out of everyone.
No, it's great, but it's just
It
weird.
turns into a martial arts film at the end.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It is cool.
With his high voice as well, isn't he? He's got his
and his amazing chest hair. He's got some kind of almost, it looks like the Ace of Spades, something like that, with this like long
a merkin,
trail.
isn't it? He's got like a pube wig in the middle of his chest.
Yeah, it's
a
awesome.
nice neat triangle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like this, just this like Deus Ex Machina at the end.
Yep.
He literally knocks on the door and has an argument with the retainer.
Yep.
And
he doesn't come a bit out of fucking nowhere.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
At which point our main characters have disappeared. Our two romantic leads are gone at this point and don't ever really come back.
And I did wake up at that point as well. I was like, oh, hang on now.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's actually a surprising amount of fighting in this film as well. So as well as kind of the fast stuff, you know, there's a lot of, well, I'm not going to call it, you know, martial arts action because it's not really set up that way, but there's a surprising amount of kind of Peking opera inspired stuff, you know, from the start as well. You know, so the very beginning of the film is set in like a market square with a lion dance and some martial arts Peking opera style demonstrations, and then sort of the last act of the film is pretty much all fighting in one form or another.
Yeah, and Diana does a reasonable amount of it as well in her scenes, right? She does lots of jumping around and kicking and punching.
I don't know what it reminded me a little bit of. Despite it didn't quite have as many star cameos and stuff like that, but just it's kind of there, kind of overrun little bits of this and that, kind of messy, kind of there you go, kind of stew of stuff. It reminded me a little bit of, in more recent years, the kind of Lunar New Year comedy that they put out there, right? Which is always just, there you go, a little bit of everything, kind of, you know, a slight vibe of that, but a little bit more classy, obviously, because it's over a chop. It's not quite as indulgent, but there's a little bit of that to it, I felt.
Yeah, I quite like, the other thing I quite liked about it was there's this kind of ambiguous morality around particularly Diana Chang's character and actually Tian Feng's character as well. So she's kind of, at the start, she kind of appears to be fairly righteous, but then she kind of, as soon as she gets in disguise, she goes incredibly ruthless and like actually tries to have sex with Ding Ling. And so you're never kind of quite sure where she's coming from. And Tian Feng's the same. So Tian Feng's like this bandit warlord.
I'll be honest with you, Darren, I don't think I'm able to have sex without my Dingling.
No.
It's an important tool in the process.
Just ask Chuck Berry.
That's right.
And
he knows all about it.
Isn't it lovely that Chuck Berry reached hands across the Pacific Ocean?
Yes.
And wrote an ode to our Dingling.
Yes.
Well, in fact, his Dingling.
A Dingling which he enjoyed urinating on people with as well.
Apparently. Well, yeah. Pictures. No, it was pictures in the toilet, wasn't it? Isn't that what Chuck Berry got done for?
I don't know what he got done for, but he was famous. He is famous for apparently enjoying pissing on white women.
I think it was both. I think he also had set up cameras in in his club as well. Yeah, that was what he was actually. Yeah,
that's what
the other stuff may have been consenting, but that wasn't consenting. So
yeah.
Oh, Chuck.
Yeah. So I kind of like that, and something else grabbed me about this, right? And it might be me kind of again overreaching. It might be my overactive imagination on this, right? And it's probably because I know who wrote the script. But am I the only one who's seeing a germ of "come drink with me" in this film?
Yeah,
the cross-dressing stuff, maybe.
What stuff?
I mean, the cross-dressing stuff.
Yeah, so there's the
for
sky.
sure. Yeah,
I think that's more
there's
of a historical trope, though, isn't it? I don't think that's necessarily. It's a different type of.
yeah, but it's, I don't know, it's just like this kind of monk drops in there at the end, you know, and it's all resolved, and they're brothers, and there's a big fight. I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
if it's just me, it's just me.
One thing we should point out, actually, because this is an early shot across our bow, right? In terms of we're going to have to get it together to read something as well at a certain point, because obviously there was a bunch of Romance of Three Kingdoms stuff, so we read that, and so this is kind of tangentially connected to the water margin, right? And there's going to be a whole lot of water margin coming along, not quite yet, but we might want to be prepped. So
yeah, good point.
And that's a big fucking read as well. I don't know if we'll get through it all, but we should at least be prepared to research,
right, to read the relevant sections to the films.
So apparently this is vaguely based on some bit, isn't it? Some small segment of it, and there's a lot of stuff like that. I think it's a good idea for us to read it as well, because it seems as if there's so many references to it here and there. Like there's so many films that are based on one small bit, or and local audiences will know what this is a reference to. So it's probably a good idea for us to have a go at it, just because it'll inform everything, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I it's all right. This wasn't one.
It sounds like you struggled to stay invested, Clive.
Yeah, I didn't. It's okay, but it was too long, and plus, I'm also struggling with actually remembering what happened in it. To be honest with you, which is why I don't have that much to say. What else have I? The only other thing I've got in my notes is worth mentioning. Directed by Yan Jun, right, who seems to have been an actor since like the late 30s, and then from the 50s was pretty prolific as a director as well, right? So we'll probably be talking a lot more Yan Jun, I would imagine.
Yeah,
a few more of these characters, like we'll still be talking more Betty Loti and Q Chong coming up in future shows. So I've got little nuggets of information about all these people, but I think I'm going to save it for when we get there with those. Lee Kwan, assistant director in this one, is it?
Yeah.
There you go. It's my boring chewing info part of the show done with.
Yeah, it's funny. I think this benefited actually from me having to watch it. I watched the first hour and a half in one sitting, and then realized I had wrongly put together the chunks of the VOB and sub files or whatever, so that it wouldn't play the last 30 minutes until I went back and found what I'd done wrong and imported them in and properly. So I watched the last half hour of it quite a bit later than the first hour and a half, and in a way that was, maybe it was good to take a bit of a break. It might have felt more of a slog if I'd watched the whole thing front to back in 2 hours.
I think you're quite right. Yeah.
Yeah. Funny enough, I did exactly the same thing, because I ran out. The reason we didn't do it, sort of the reason we can't remember half the film, is that I delayed the podcast recording because I ran out of time. And that's the one I run out of time on. So I had half an hour left.
There we go.
And it was the best way to watch it.
Others can learn from our mistakes. If you want to enjoy Bride Napping more,
to get the most out of this,
watch
the first hour and a half.
Yeah.
Take a month off, come back and watch the last half hour.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the best way to enjoy it.
I will say, the standouts for me were definitely Betty Loti. I thought she was great. I thought Diana was amazing, and I really liked Chumu. And that they were kind of like, they were the bright sparks for me.
It's interesting, actually, isn't it? Because something I've noticed watching a lot of these films, a lot of these early 60s Shaw joints, is you have someone like Chumu, who, not a leading man, kind of never really a leading man, character actor, but has kind of big-ish parts in this era, and then just kind of gets relegated to, you know, shopkeeper for 5 minutes, or, you know, Shaolin Abbot, you know, in the background of something else, you know, in the 70s or whatever. So, and
is that
it's
lack of martial arts training, like, because at a certain point Shaw kind of goes over to more and more of the ability, you know, where ability to throw shapes and the rest of it becomes key to having a big part in what's going on. Yeah.
Well, it could be, but that's not the case with everyone, you know. I mean, there's usually plenty of roles, even when you get into the height of Fu, you know, for example, you know, Kung Fu masters, you know, they don't have to do any flips or anything. They, you know, they just hit you with a stick as you're
right.
touching, you know. But yeah, I kind of noticed that there's a number of really good kind of character actors that I see in the early 60s who just get relegated to background, or very, very small, of, you know, thuggish or kind of, you know, very, very background roles, you know, into the late 60s and 70s. And I'd have liked to have seen more from Chu Mu in particular, because I think he's got a really good comic touch.
He is really, I mean, I think his swagger, his bravado, his stupidity, like he's very comfortable playing dumb in this. He does that really well. He does that mix of like stupid but also braggadocious and just a douchebag, but he plays it really well.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of Cam Kong. When Cam Kong is being silly, he's like Chu Mu in this for me. What do you think, Clive?
Yes, I concur, because I can't do anything else.
I like it when Clive's quiet, actually.
It's
weird. We'll have to do more of this.
Yeah. Well, it's now you realize how I drive the show. You see, it's now that I.
No, we're driving the show today.
Yeah, but it's all over it's all over the road.
It's not all over the road. It's an organic animal. It's you know, it's like a Wagyu beef instead of your Tesco's beef mince. It's organic.
It's an analogy.
Yeah. These cows have been massaged.
Yeah,
to ensure perfect marbling, Clive.
Yeah, your Park Farms recombined ham in a tin. That's what you are.
Bloody hippies. You come crying when you get invaded.
You're a fucking bat.
So
podcaster you are.
So I would imagine at this point we're going to segue absolutely smoothly and flawlessly to us definitely wearing the same clothes and discussing P. Ramlee's LABU Dan
LABU Dan LABI, 1962. It's our old pal P. Ramlee once again, director and co-star, along with one M. Zain. So LABU Dan LABI is apparently LABU and LABI, right? And LABU is M. Zain, P. Ramlee is LABI. And so this film begins with the world's scariest clock, right? This terrifying fucking...
After, like a German expressionist angle.
Yeah. And a kind of a Big Ben sort of gone wrong.
Big Ben on methadone, I wrote down.
Yes.
Methadone.
It's like, it's this, and it comes up again, and it
repeatedly in the
time.
film. And it doesn't seem comedic at all.
No,
like,
yeah, but it also punctuates the sketches, doesn't it?
Yes, so it does. It's very strange.
The sketches aren't scary. They just
no, they're comedic.
Just when that was a damn. Is one of the reasons I like this film, because I don't understand why it's there, but I'm glad it's there. It's very weird. So this is also a big breaking the fourth wall film. So pretty much from the beginning.
But you say that.
Well, yeah.
There's not that much.
There's quite a bit of it. I mean, it's presented as that way as well, right? Haji Bakil, played by Uda Omar, is and I think apparently Bakil is like a play on words meaning stingy or something, right? So
Okay.
Yeah.
sort of merchant, right? And a penny pinching merchant to introduce.
Yeah, my wife actually she watched the beginning of it with me. She really liked the line about how, like, you know, for him a penny is like a cart wheel, you know, like that.
Yeah.
It has great value.
My favorite part, which did genuinely, a lot of this film actually really, I was surprised how much I genuinely found this film with no special pleading. There wasn't like, for the time or for the place, I'll give it the benefit. I mean, genuinely made me laugh. There's a bit where they're listening to the radio and he's complaining. He's going, why is the radio full of love songs? Why can't there be some songs about how to save money? What's happening? And he's like looking over his wife. He's, oh, she's just about to hit me. Oh, she didn't hit me. I thought that was quite surreal and funny. And then the wife introduces herself, and then the daughter introduces herself, and then so LABU, M. Zayn, introduces himself, and he's like the general dog's body cook kind of servant. And then finally, Ramlee introduces himself. He's the chauffeur, isn't he? And
also sort of dog's body as well, generally.
Yeah. And basically, they both have the hots for the daughter.
Played by Ramlee's real life wife, right?
Ariani, but neither one of them knows that. They both carry a photo around of the girl they love, but they won't show each other. But they show it to the camera.
To us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is literally the plot of this film, LABU Dan LABI, which I argue could also be AKA these fuckers just won't go to sleep.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is, and that's a running theme in a lot of these. So what is the film? It escapes me for the moment.
Oh, they stay up all night, isn't there? One of them.
Yeah, the film where there's a Pontianak in.
I think it's one of the Bujang Lapok ones, isn't it?
It is. It's the one. It's the Bujang Lapok where they work for Shaw Brothers Studios. They go to become movie stars.
That's right. Yeah, and they just
and then they end up in a graveyard and there's Pontianak.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, they stay up all night fucking about.
Yeah, they just stay up all night fucking about, and then they've got to go and clean cars and cook food.
Yeah, but you see them sleeping on the job, right? So it's quite. So this, it's such an episodic film. It's ridiculously episodic. But it got me on. I was watching. I was thinking, okay, this is vaguely amazing. But it got me. I don't know why. It'd be interesting to see if you found this funny or not. But it got me on side straight away. Where after work one night they go to a club, basically, and their idea of a good time is like they're pretending to be magistrates who can speak English.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right, I'm taking issue with this.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what I thought till I saw the other fantasy dream sequences.
All right. Okay.
And I posit them go into the club wearing suits, talking lots of English, pretending to be a doctor and a lawyer. Is actually a dream sequence, a fantasy.
Yeah, it is either it's a dream or it's a story.
All right, I see. Right, okay.
Each other on the veranda. Yes.
So I don't actually think that that's what they do for fun.
That could be then.
No, I'm pretty sure that is a fantasy.
Whatever it is, it made me laugh. I don't know why. There was something. I think it's the tone of voice they take when they speak. My good friend, how are you? How is your work?
I like that, and I particularly like the way that they talk to the waiter.
Yeah.
Hello, I'll have a gin and tonic, please.
Yeah. Well, when it tries a ghoulish cider and Satan and tonic, right?
Satan and tonic is definitely.
It's something about it. Oh, my good man, haven't you? Oh, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit
Yes,
down.
the arms are going all over the
Yeah.
place.
Oh,
Yeah.
how is your business? Oh, very good. It's just
Yes, yeah. That was all great. But did you guys notice that before that, there's a scene where LABU screws up as usual, right? And he's threatened by having his eyes put out with two forks.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And
That's
I was like,
gotta be a
that
reference,
has
right?
to be a reference
Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
to the other P. Ramlee film, right? And I was like,
We're
wow,
in-
they're
we're
making
in
fun of like,
meta territory. aren't we?
There's a lot
Yeah.
of there's like when they're in the club as well. There's a bit where it suddenly turns into an extended beauty pageant,
yeah, that's weird.
and there's
And
like
that's long.
yeah, and there's an MC and
That's
he
good
makes
10 to
jokes.
15 minutes long.
And he makes jokes about each person as they come out. And one woman comes out and he says something along the lines of, unfortunately, she's already married to P. Ramlee.
Yeah. And then P. Ramlee is there singing and dancing with
Yes, he's the band,
with,
isn't he?
with the band, yeah.
The band
And
with
then
the
we cut
shades
over
on.
to P. Ramlee playing the other character, and then he
Yes.
makes a comment about how like, I fucking hate that guy. I'd like to kill him and then
Yeah.
marry his wife.
And also, there's a blind sax player in the band.
Oh shit, I didn't even
Yeah,
notice that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Which one was that? That's still my favorite P. Ramlee film we've watched. That and Curse of the Early Maniac.
That
But what
was
was
like my mother's a cunt or whatever it was called. My mother-in-law.
I think that was the title, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Nick. Yeah.
And so then they also try and chat up one of the girls. They both have a go at chatting up. They forget about the other chick for a little while, for the daughter.
Yeah.
They both try and chat up one of the girls by both pretending again to hello, I'm a very successful. Hello, how are you? Yeah, very successful. Actually, I was just in Hong Kong, and it's just.
Yeah.
I don't know why
but make it clear to the audience that when you're saying, "Oh, hello, I was in Hong Kong," that's the voice. Both the voice they're talking, and the actual words they're saying in the film. It's because they're talking.
No.
Yeah, they're actually in English. Yeah. It's
not
that's
just that is
the subtitles. The subtitles drop away because they're actually speaking in English in those sections. Yeah.
He also it has to be said when he sings as well. Actually, M. Zayn has a very funny.
I love his singing voice because it's funny because you know Ramlee obviously sticks with his dulcet tones, right? But yeah,
as we know, sends a quiver across the country.
yes.
Film.
But Zayn's his delivery is fantastic. And then we smash cut to Big Ben again,
bonging just in case you're having too much of a good time. They scare the shit out of you. It's like the march of time, isn't it? Like you can't escape the grave or something.
Ask not for whom the bell tolls.
Yes. And then basically they just don't go to fucking sleep. They stay up all night.
Out on the veranda.
Having dream sequences.
And fantasies. Yep.
One of which is a Tarzan parody.
Which, you know what, the gag, stupid as it is, where he's out there doing his like and then he swallows a fly. I was like, that's a gag.
Something. Tarzan's typing something.
Yes.
Udo Omar turns up.
But then you've got Ramlee dressed in this
tiger,
horrendous fucking tiger.
Skin tight, painted on.
And Udo Omar turns up in the gorilla suit, which is even more kind of gorilla suit. Yeah. And there's a whole running gag of, aren't you Haji Bakil? Oh no, I'm his cousin.
Who's a monkey for some reason.
Yeah,
but it's so fucking threadbare, wasn't it? I wonder whether it's deliberately threadbare.
Right.
I think.
Yes. Yeah. Like, could they not afford a tail to put on? So they made the joke about how come you don't have a tail if you're a tiger? And he's like, I'm a very sophisticated tiger, or whatever the gag is.
That's a good. I don't know why that's funny.
That is actually a good gag, to be fair.
And then there's a Western sequence where he's Jesse James's brother and Ramlee is the sheriff. And then beyond that,
out in the bar.
yeah, and then I thought it was going to carry on in that vein of being parodies of other films, which I suppose it could be, but I'm not familiar with which films it's parodying, because then it goes into this whole thing about like the daughter being poisoned, and then it turns out
By a witch doctor,
they're sharing the same, like they were having separate dreams before, and then they end up sharing the same dream, it looks like, and then they wake up and fight each other, right?
Well, although the film tries to trick you into the idea that lasts until it's exposed as a dream, that it's actually happening, right? And so you've got LABU goes out and finds like again, maybe this is a reference to Alibaba Bujang Lapok or whatever.
There's a lot of, again,
with money in,
the family films we haven't seen, it might be referencing, right? Because I think there is one kind of westerny type one that he did do, right? I wonder if that Jesse James sequence is direct.
To be fair, the western sequence is not bad.
Yeah,
no,
it's a nice little shootout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know, and banisters and going up the stairs.
And you know, if you start flagging and a bit doesn't interest you, you start dropping off, that fucking clock will come up again. And it just goes on like that, really. I mean, and it just basically runs out of road and ends. I mean,
LABU turns into a real piece of shit actually in the last section, which is, I guess, we find out later it's a dream, but like that whole part where he's like staring intently at that spinning thing.
What was that about? Was it that confused? Again, that could be a reference.
Ski or something.
Yeah. That could be a reference again to a P. Ramlee film that we haven't seen, right? Which is, of course, why we have to watch them all, lads. It's the only way.
Well, easy now. Easy.
So I was surprised.
It was a magical marble
as well, isn't it? There's like a witch doctor thing.
Yeah. LABU has gone to this witch doctor, and in order to hypnotize and knock out Salima or whatever, and then Ramlee goes to another witch doctor to get a magical marble to bring her out of her comatose state. And then I did like, there's a great moment where Ramlee wakes her up, and then
by putting milk on her face or something.
Yeah, I think he drops the marble in some whatever. But then the dad is like, "Oh, you can ask me for anything now, except money."
Yeah, and then there's a hilarious misunderstanding when he says, "I want to marry you" instead of your daughter. And he goes, "What the hell?" He's like disgusted. What are you talking? Oh, sorry, I meant your daughter. And then he goes, "Oh."
And then it ends with like, well, I mean, it doesn't end, but like one of the final scenes is like Ramlee attempting to axe murder Zayn, and then it's smash cutting to a pillow fight.
Yeah,
I think that's the bit where they seem to be sharing the dream, then, isn't it? If you follow the weird logic of the film, then they seem to be.
And then we find out they're both still, and then Zayn has this thing where he doesn't know it was a dream, and he's convinced he is actually rich, and he gets in trouble. And there's that scene at the end where they do that thing, which is apparently a real thing, right? This thing of crossing your touching your things.
That's in the start of the film as well. So that's like a punishment.
Yeah. But apparently it was used in schools in Malaysia. It's a thing that was like, and it has a name. It was like, it's in the Wikipedia entry on the movie. I was like, so I was forced to look it up. There's all these photographs, like pictures. You can Google it. There's pictures of it. It was interesting enough for me to be like, what the hell is this? It's called Haji, who is still very angry at having his sleep continually disrupted, punishes both LABU and LABI by making them do the Ketok Ketampi. And so if you Google Ketok Ketampi, you'll find a bunch of pictures of people doing this.
I would apparently on there being a Ketapi Bujang Lapok film as well. We haven't watched maybe.
Probably. And apparently, like, there's all kinds of ridiculous claims made for it that it's like really good for you in terms of like, I don't know, mental acuity and you're touching like power spots, whatever. I was like, and you know what?
Squats, so it's good for fitness anyway, isn't it? So
sure. Yeah.
Squats. Yeah.
Yeah. So
get some blood circulating.
That apparently you two sound as if you were getting to the end of your rope with, because I think I'm slowly getting this. I think that so far this was the one I found the funniest, like consistently
So
funny
this is now Ramlee Stockholm syndrome
all the
that
way
you got.
through. Yeah, I honestly I could. I mean, I'd quite like a primer maybe, rather than wade through them all by myself. Like if someone could present like a top 5. Maybe we've already watched all top 5. I don't know, but if there's another Ramlee film as funny as this, then I would quite like to see it, because I had a surprisingly good time with this. I was surprised how much I laughed.
I think that it's on the funnier side of Ramlee. So for sure, if you want to be amused by Ramlee, go watch this one. However, if you haven't watched the serious Ramlee ones, which are the best ones, but also some of the Malaysian films for context and probably other Ramlee films, then you might not actually get the humour that we've actually sort of sunk ourselves into. So it's a little bit chicken and egg. So I wouldn't have said that this is the one to introduce you to Ramlee.
No, I would agree, but I would say though, if you're going to go to Ramlee comedy, what's nice about this is an hour and 37 minutes.
I think
not
that might have helped.
Not 2 hours.
Yeah.
With some of the Bujang and they clock in at 2 hours.
I'm quite happy having got a few more P. Ramlee films under my belt. I would come back and watch this again just to see if I would get more references. That would be painless for me. I honestly, and it surprises me to say it, because thus far I think there was a certain amount of, not special pleading exactly, but a certain amount of putting things in the context of the time and place and appreciation more than full enjoyment. Apart from that Oily Maniac Sumpan Pontiac thing we did, which was really good. But do you know what I mean? Whereas this one was actually just fun all the way through for whatever reason. Yeah, but are you still both kind of feeling a bit of the weirdness of?
I mean, we're doing one a month, so it's not like it's it's not a huge trial for sure. It's funny enough, I was in the Foodland, which is a local grocery store, 2 days ago, and 2 gentlemen were wandering around talking animatedly to each other, and I was like, I fucking know that language. That's Malaysian? And I had to restrain myself from attempting to engage guys younger than me in a conversation about, was there any chance you might know P. Ramlee, the work of, anyway.
Terima kasih, were they saying thank you to terima kasih? That's the only word I know. So
it was definitely Malaysian, because as I said, we've watched enough of these now where my ear is attuned.
Was one of them greased up? You could have prevented a crime from happening later that evening.
No, I mean, hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun with this. I did have fun with it. It was nice and short, as Nick says. 1 hour 37 is good.
Yeah.
Family film. But it did just fucking pull the handbrake right at the end as well, didn't it? It was just like, just end it.
Yeah. But I'm good with that. I'm
I kind of liked it. I think it's on the top end. I think it's probably the funniest Ramlee that I've seen.
Yeah, definitely for me it was.
Yes. Agreed.
So gentlemen, we're finished now. I'll be going back to my business. How about you two?
Pleased to meet you, Doctor.
After you.
My business as well.
Would you like a drink?
I would like Satan.
Well, aren't you saying anything, sir? How is your business?
I'm not, Joe. I'm just enjoying this play out.